Greetings YouTube, LMS Tactical here. I hope everybody's doing well. I had a question asked by one of our teammates here on the channel. First name I think was John, Jon. And he wanted to know what it was that made me decide to become a police officer. And my memory's so screwed up lately, I don't know if I've talked about that or not, so I'm just going to tell the story. And if you're a cop hater or stories bore you, then now's the time to check out. Okay, so, my life's an open book. Some of the things I divulge here in this story will probably raise the eyebrows of some people that know me. But, I'm a firm believer that we can all learn from other people's experiences. And I'm at that point now in my life where I don't hide much from anybody. I'm not ashamed of who I am. It is what it is, and there's always somebody that had it a lot worse than me, so I'm not feeling sorry for myself. So with that disclaimer, I want you people, especially you young folks, trying to think back to what the country was like during the 60s. I'm sure you've seen movies or read about it in history, but the 60s was really what I think is primarily responsible for completely fucking this country up. I mean, it was a free-for-all. Everybody could, have sex with everybody getting laid, everybody getting high. Tune in, turn on, and drop out was, Timothy Leary kind of thing. So, in my home, we were typical, really white trash. I hate to say it, but we were, by my standards now, and by the given standards of the derogatory term of white trash, come on, man. It is what it is, and it was what it was. My mother was, and I'll tell you, I got my mother's still alive. She won't be much longer. I love her dearly. She wasn't going to win any awards for her motherhood, let me put it that way. A good sign of her legacy is the fact that I adopted my two nephews, because their own mother, one of my sisters, didn't do too well. Nobody did, actually. I'm the youngest of four. I had three older sisters. One committed suicide, and the other two have had their struggles. So, and all of it can be tracked back to, like most people, it can be tracked back to our childhood. Now, the difference between me and them is I don't allow my childhood to dictate my future or even my present. Hope you can hear me over this train. So we were living in Inglewood. That's the first location that I can actually remember living in. And that's a suburb of Los Angeles. It's like a southern suburb. And in those days, there was just all kinds of drugs and abuse going on in my house. A lot of physical abuse, a lot of emotional to my sisters. It was very common for me to see my sisters laying on the floor unconscious and their hole in the wall shaped like their head kind of thing. My mom was very violent. And she was big too. It's weird now, you see her. She's old, skeletal woman in a wheelchair who conveniently has no memory of anything except good times, that which she must have read in a magazine. Okay, about 45 minutes has gone by. I ran into some nice people, a man and his wife and daughter, and they wanted to hear all about Charlie. And then Charlie had to go swimming. See how wet he is? Charlie, look! Look how wet he is. He's a good boy. Oh, look at him. I never get tired of that dude. Okay. So yeah, my mother she's not going to be around too much longer. And like I said, I love her. Now, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, whew, child, she was way out of control. We had no money. We were on welfare. I just say this for I keep getting messages in the middle of my video. But yeah, I say this background stuff just to give you a clear vision as to what it was like, and all of the things I'm talking about had something to do with my choices, specifically becoming a cop. I'll get to that. So again, for background purposes, you know, we were on welfare. You know, my father wasn't living at home, and you know, my mom, quite frankly, was resorted to prostitution many times, you know. And I mean, it could be said on her behalf that some of the proceeds from that line of work more than likely kept a roof over our heads. So I try not to be too judgmental. I mean, yeah. So when I was younger, way back in Inglewood, now in the 60s during the Vietnam War, my mom was, she had a penchant for, she had a thing for bikers. You know, she was a consummate hippie, you know, hated the cops, and I think I've gone over this a little bit before. If I'm repeating myself, forgive me. But she was a real anti-cop person. I mean, cops were pigs, and, you know, she was a physical person. She'd beat the shit out of you with a weapon. And if I ever got caught playing soldier, you know, it was an ass whipping. I wasn't allowed to play with toy soldiers. I wasn't allowed to watch military movies, that kind of thing. And as you see, of course, I left home and went in the military and then became a cop. So I learned very young that if my mom hated it, it was probably the right way to go. I mean, I think she still hates cops to this day. And I know she doesn't really like me that much. I think she kind of loves me because I send her money. You know, pay her rent and shit. But, yeah, I don't think she really likes me as a person because of my career choices. So, you know, it was very common for me as a very young kid, you know, 5 years old, get up in the middle of the night to go take a piss, and there'd be some Hell's Angel rebuilding his motorcycle in my front room. Serious. I mean, that, I remember walking by and having the scare, and these guys were scary, very scary. Be like, hey, little fucker, hand me that monkey wrench. I spent most of my childhood not expecting to reach adulthood. I just assumed I was either going to get killed by my mom, who threatened it often, or one of these psychotic bikers that used to frequent our house was going to just end up killing me, killing all of us. These were scary dudes, man, and these were righteous Hell's Angels, a lot of them. Some were just, you know, bikers, but everybody had hair down to their ass and tattoos and hated the cops. And so I remember the very first time that my front door came flying off the hinges, like a nuclear bomb went off. Scared the shit out of me, man. And the house was full of bikers, you know, and everybody was smoking dope. And in those days, a pot seed was a felony. So everybody was dropping pills and smoking dope and blah, blah, blah. Hang on, I gotta tuck my bootlace in. Hang on. So, yeah, the door comes flying off the hinges, and sure enough, it's Inglewood police. Now, I knew what cops were, more or less, at that young age, but when these dudes came flying into the house, they were looking for somebody that had a warrant that was in my house. And the guys that I used to just shake in fear from, these bikers, man, when these cops came in there, and this is, you know, late 60s. Oh God, here comes another person, hang on. Wow, you see the sun going down now? I met up with a guy that I talk to regularly, and we just talked for, I don't know, man, like 45, 50 minutes. It's very hard to break these videos up because I can't remember where I left off. So I'll just try to see if I can get it close. So yeah, the 1960s, hippies. Yeah, oh, the door came flying off the hinges, and what I saw was these gigantic bikers. These cops ran in, you know, everybody get your hands up against the wall there, you know. And I remember there were handprints on the wall in the front room for months after that. But I stood there wide-eyed in my pajamas watching these bikers be told to sit down and shut the fuck up every time they smarted off, or, you know, these guys were pretty much manhandling them, the cops were. But what struck me was the authority that they had over not just like a power trip, but over guys that were so intimidating, the bikers, Hells Angels. And these guys, the bikers, did everything they said. They were clearly afraid of these guys, of the cops. And I'm watching these guys. Everybody in those days had long hair, and here's these cops with short hair, shiny leather, you know, equipment gear, or equipment belts, shiny boots on, everything neat, you know, the gig line on their shirts, everything's perfect. And as a little kid, man, I looked at these guys and I just started thinking to myself, my God, where are these gods from? Where do they live? What are their houses like? What kind of, you know, how do I get the magic that they have? I lived my whole life in fear as a kid, and these cops were clearly not afraid of anything. They were so sure of themselves. It made an impression on me. And as I grew up, the cops would come to my house often. And every time I just got more and more obsessed with having to become one of them. And I vowed at that age, at 5 years old, I think it was, I vowed that no matter what happened, I was going to wear that uniform. I was going to become a cop. You know, as I got older and learned about some of the things that police officers do, it just solidified my desires. So that's it, John. I hope I gotten interrupted so much. I hope I didn't leave anything out, but that should give you a good feel for how my police career started. And yeah, it was funny, as I became, years afterwards when I became a cop, you know, I'd be kicking in doors and there'd be a snot-nosed little Mike just like me sitting there wide-eyed, and I used to, every chance, my partners used to go, oh God, go smoke a cigarette, Mike's gonna talk. I'd pull these kids aside and I'd tell them the same story I just told you. I'd start off with, hey man, where do you think I live? Oh, you probably live in a mansion. You know, I'd be in the ghetto or something. And I'd be like, you think that's how I grew up? And I'd say, let me tell you a little story. And I would tell them this. And, you know, I never know if I touched anybody, or you never know the outcome, but it wasn't through lack of effort. So hopefully one of those little snot-nosed mics is now a LAPD officer somewhere. Who knows? All right, guys. LMS Tactical, have a great weekend. Oh, it's not a weekend. I'm so used to saying that. Strike that. Rewind. LMS Tactical. I hope you guys have a safe week, and I'm out. Cue the music. Cue the music. Cue the music. LMS Tactical, I'm out. Cue the music.